Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to the Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here's a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stokes. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out.
All right, welcome to Cornhusker Corner, where there's no place like
this podcast.
As always, we're your host, Blake, and my brother,
Brooks.
There you go. Always remember to like and subscribe to the podcast. We like doing these, but, you know, times are tough. Inflation's hitting us all. So make sure you like and subscribe so we can keep these going.
Absolutely. And also remember to follow us on Twitter at Husker Corner and on Instagram. It's called Cornhusker Corner. We had a lot of fun yesterday tweeting the game. The game wasn't fun to watch, but at least people's humor on social media made it a little bit funnier. Husk guys tweeted out yesterday. They were like, they responded to a tweet they had a day ago that said, what if we win tomorrow and never stop losing? And then they responded to it yesterday. They were like, narrator, they didn't. And I responded to them, and I was like, I read that in Morgan Freeman's voice. Thank you for the laugh. And they retweeted it. So I just read it as they didn't. I can't do Morgan Freeman. Yeah, that just gave me a good laugh. But it was a tough game to watch. To be honest, that was the most frustrated I've been all year watching a Nebraska football game.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't watching on the TV last week. I mean, I was pretty frustrated, but I was also in the stadium, and it's kind of like I was just trying to have a good time. But this week, I mean,
but guess what? The reason we lost both of those games were the same exact reason. Our defense played lights out last night. Yesterday. They played lights out the week before. Anytime that you're going into the fourth quarter only down by a score or two, guess what? That's not on you. That's on the offense. And, you know, we went into the first quarter. After the end of the first quarter, it was 10-0. We were running the ball. But our offense was very one-dimensional. So guess what? Minnesota only really had to do one thing, and that was to take away the run. The schemed runs that we were doing, we didn't really stick with them. A couple things happened in that kind of vein. They tried to do that draw play way too much. I don't know why.
It was also offensive line personnel. Like that was one of the big things about those plays was Brock Bando was hurt going into the game, and he was coming back from an injury going into the game, and they were using him on limited reps. If you watch the game film, every play that was a run play, that was a positive run play, was because Brock Bando was in.
Yeah.
He was moving his dude.
Yeah, there was a couple of things like that. But then, like, you know, when those two drives where we got points, the second one, you know, if we scored a touchdown there, that ended up being big. It was ended up being 3rd and 5 or something. And then we just ended up getting points, like 3rd and goal, like from the 5 or something, like 5 or 10. And we just ended up kicking a field goal. That was big, but our offense got really one-dimensional real fast. And for one reason and one reason only. And it's because I almost said Brock Purdy, like the announcers kept doing yesterday.
It's because Logan's mother should be QB1.
Logan's mother should be QB1. And it is not even close.
It's not even close.
Chubba Purdy is not a quarterback. No. He's an athlete, I guess. But, you know, he's not a quarterback. He gets flustered when he sees any sort of pressure, can't read the defense, and he lays balls out for people just to get smacked. He missed Vokalek a couple times. He laid out Trey just to get clobbered. And he throws with 0 zip on the ball. And that game yesterday is entirely on one person, and it's not Chubba. I don't fault the kid for being in there. He was put in a bad situation, and he kept being put in a bad situation. That's Whipple's fault. And if you want to go even deeper, that's Mickey's fault, because being an interim head coach sometimes you're like, I just have to trust my coordinators. And that's really kind of the mindset that he like takes. And he's just kind of like the game manager, like, okay, what are we going to do here? Let's do a timeout. Let's like challenge the play. Let's motivate the guys. And that's really what the role that he's taking. He's not taking the role of like, I'm going to do this. Like if I see something on offense, we need to do this. At least it doesn't seem that way. He's just really trusting in Whipple and he's trusting in Bush. And one of those guys is not letting him down.
Purdy. It ain't. Bush ain't letting him down.
No, Purdy is Whip's guy, and it was very, very obvious after, like, what was it, like 10 straight 3-and-outs,
right,
or something? Yeah.
Well, Mickey at the very beginning of his press conference yesterday spoke on this very topic. So why don't we hear what Mickey has to say, and then we can dive into it as deep as you and I want to. So, hang on, let me share screen. Let me get the window. Entire screen, Chrome tab, that's what it is. Share with audio. Sorry about that. Go full screen and press play. Here we are.
I thought he saw it early. I thought he saw it early, but I didn't think he saw it towards the end of the game. So that's why it was the change with Logan. Thought Logan gave us a better chance.
And Mickey, you went 6 straight 3-and-outs with Chuba, then the 7th possession was a pick. Did you think about going to Logan earlier?
Yeah, we probably should have, but we figured we had to throw the ball down the field, and then when he wasn't seeing it, then we figured we had to.
All right, hang on. When he says that things like that, I figured we had to throw the ball down the field. Immediately, I'm always just like, what the actual? So you're saying Logan can't throw? So I was very pleased to hear the reporter's next question.
Mm-hmm. And then when he wasn't seeing it, then figured we had to make a change. But you're right. In this league, you can't do that. You can't go 6 3-and-outs in this league. You can't do it because they'll eat the clock up.
Which throw can Logan basically not make that you feel like Chuba needs to be in there to throw? Which one was that today?
Well, you're right about that, Sam. He made some good throws today, and you just got to be more consistent in practice for what we see. But he played. He stood up today.
Yeah. So cut that out. We talked on the podcast for the preview, and we said there has to be something in practice that they're seeing from Chuba that they're not seeing from Logan. That's probably what it, and we were right. And that's probably what it is. But, it doesn't matter. Practice does not matter. It doesn't. Mm-hmm. What matters is getting into a game. Logan is calm. He's cool. He's collected. He knows the throws that he has to make. He reads the defense. He has a very quick, decision maker. Mm-hmm. And guess what? He throws the ball with zip. He's not shot putting it.
Right. Chuba sort of reminds me of. Sorry for interrupting, but you know what Chuba sort of reminds me of? Chuba sort of reminds me of Spider-Man from Civil War. You know what I mean? He's just a little puppy out there. You know what I mean? He's just a little, Mr. Stark, blah, 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 Mr. Whipple, blah, 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 blah. That's what it just kind of reminds me of. Like, he's just Whipple's little protege. He doesn't really know what he's doing. Like, he just didn't have one play yesterday that was on the passing game.
But Spider-Man in Civil War still took on the Winter Soldier.
But I'm just saying, like, he had this attitude where, like, he really didn't know what he was doing, and he was just subservient to Tony Stark. And that's what it feels like here. It's just like, Whipple, what do I do next? Whipple, what do I do next? And it's almost like he's, like, I feel like he's almost been overcoached. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if this dude has natural skill. I don't know if this dude has natural skill or not, but he seems like the type of player who just wants to be let go. And I'm not quite sure what it is, but I haven't seen anything. I definitely he has positive arm talent at all.
I don't think he's been overcoached. I will say that. I don't think so. I think it's all up to do with the noggin and the decision making that just he has. Because guess what? Again, scheme wise, you look at scheme wise, we were running fine plays. Like we really were, especially like scheming guys open, and he just wasn't hitting them. He just wasn't. Yeah. The only thing that we probably shouldn't have done as much is, like I mentioned earlier, that little like draw play. That's not working. If you don't respect a pass game, that's not gonna work.
Right.
That's gonna work. It's just not. Right. And I'm gonna go say something a little. It's a hot take. Okay, it's a hot take. There's no way around it. and I'm going to pose the question to you. When Casey gets back, like if he's healthy again, who do you actually think we should go with between Casey and Smothers? Because you can have Casey. No. We're going to go with Casey, Blake. No. I know we're going to go with Casey, but here's the thing that Logan brings that Casey doesn't, and he just has that speed and he has that quarterback run ability.
He does.
And it kind of and Casey keeps getting hurt. And from what I saw yesterday and what I've seen from Logan in the past, there's nothing that Casey Thompson in terms of arm strength that does exponentially better. He throws the out route very, very well. That is something that he does very, very well.
He actually goes through progression every pass play too. Like that's just something that you really like, you know what I mean? Like every play, you can tell he's always going through that progression. There's very few times he pre-reads, and when he does, it's because our offensive line has been getting beat all day.
And I'm not saying that Casey's a bad option, but would you rather play with a banged up Casey Thompson or a fresh Logan Smothers?
It's a fair question. It's a fair question for this podcast and for how you and I probably both see Logan, because I see Logan with a whole lot of potential. And like you said, and Casey always says this too, the number one thing that a quarterback needs to do is stay poised. And Logan has shown time and time again to Nebraska fans at this point, time and then time again, basically. So he's shown us twice. But yeah, he can stay poised and he's got a lot of potential. He's a very athletic quarterback. I think he needs game reps. Like he just needs game reps. And I think when they put pretty sharp, pretty quick.
When they put him in the second half, I think they had just drive down and gotten a field goal, I believe. And then then we had a 3 and out and our defense stopped them and we got the ball back. I think that's how that progression went, where we were up by 7 still when he got his first. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah.
It was either that or we were tied. And they put him in. And Ollie Martin, it was a little behind. It hit him right in the numbers. You catch the ball, it's a first down.
Yeah, no, he didn't get any help with the receivers today.
No.
Mickey said that too in the press conference as well. He was mad at that group.
Yeah. So he didn't do anything that drive that was like, oh no, we need to put Purdy back in. He doesn't have it either. Like, keep him in for the rest of the game. Let him get some momentum.
Agreed. When Purdy had shown us literally time and time again, much more than twice, that
2 games in a row.
Yeah, 2 games in a row, and every drive, like virtually every drive of the second half of Illinois, and then besides the very first drive of the game, pretty much every drive.
Which that was Anthony Grant.
100%, and like you give Chuba credit where you can because he is a good athlete, and he made the decision to run on that first down play. Got 2 first downs on his legs on that drive. So you got to give him credit there. Good for him. But like they were putting him in the game. They've told us they were putting him in the game for the purpose that we needed to air it out. We thought we needed to air it out. We thought it's like, are you telling me you seriously didn't think you could do that at all with Logan? Like, and not only that, but like, think about it this way. Like Logan comes in and you've now painted the picture to the media that like this kid, Logan Smothers, is a running quarterback. So now what are they going to do when you bring him in? Stack the box. Now what can you do? Throw it downfield and it'll be wide open. He doesn't have to be a great thrower. He just got to get it downfield. It was just a very frustrating game to watch because I was just like, come on now. Because you say it's on Whipple, and I agree, but who does Whipple answer to? Whipple answers to Mickey. We had 6 3-and-outs in a row. 6 3-and-outs in a row. That means you had 6 chances. In baseball, you get 3 strikes. You get 3 strikes. In this game, he got 6 strikes. I mean, he struck out twice.
I don't think Whipple has to answer to Mickey. I don't think that's how it's set up. I just don't.
Really? How do you think it's set up?
Like I said before, I think he gives his coordinators their positions, and he's going to like be in their ear and say, "What are you seeing here? What are you thinking here?" But he's going to let them make those decisions.
Personnel decisions.
Personnel decisions. He is
quarterback.
I don't think it should. I don't think it should.
Okay. I'm here with you. So let me pose this to you. So you think for the whole game he was sitting there just like, I think I'm gonna let Whip get this. And then finally in the fourth quarter he was like, no, Whip. You think that's what happened, or you think it was Whip that said Smothers? Go ahead. What do you think happened? Let me ask you that question.
That I don't know.
Yeah,
that I don't know.
That's the
Because
question.
at that point, it's too late. See, what if this? I mean, we are not a professional podcast, so I can say stuff like this.
We're professionals. We make a couple cents a week. Yeah, I just revealed our AdSense to the audience.
What if Smothers is just on Whipple's bad side? What if he doesn't like his attitude? What if there's something like that?
See, now
And
we're
so then
getting
he yeah, I know. But what if then that's why he makes the choice then. He's like, okay, he's not gonna do anything. Let's just throw him in and see what happens.
Now we're getting into conspiracies. I think it's less of that and more of what we posed at the very beginning, which is that Chubba is Whipple's guy. It's not that Logan isn't, it's that Chubba is. Well, guess who's Whipple's guy at this point? And I think Whipple understands this now. It's been 2 games. You got to. His guy is the guy that's going to get people off his ass. That's the guy, Whipple. And the guy right now, in my opinion, you'd have to be a blind bat to not see that it's Logan. I mean, it's Logan. It's obviously Logan. The whole vibe of the team changed as soon as Logan started getting his reps in the late 4th quarter. Both you and I said, oh God, we're about 2 series too late on this. I really thought he should have had the whole second half to work with. But I mean, if you're going to put him in, if you're going to put Chubba back in and give him, if you're going to give Chubba a second chance, okay, give him a second chance. Give him 1 or 2 series. They gave him like 4 more series.
Yeah.
It didn't work out. And it's like, bro, you got to give Logan at least an entire quarter to work with. You put him in a horrible situation.
Yeah. That series before they put Logan in, when Chubba threw the interception where they drove down and then scored a touchdown, that should have been Logan's.
Yes.
That should have been Logan's.
Yes. 100%.
That was where you should have made the change.
Yeah.
Because he didn't show you anything else after you took Logan out and then put him back in. He hadn't shown anything. Still 3 and out. Couldn't get the run game going because they didn't respect the pass. They were just stacking the box. And guess what? Like clockwork, we got behind the sticks. 3rd down, they're going to rush the house. He's going to freak out, roll out, take a sack, or throw it away.
Every
single drive. I was calling it. Like,
yeah, but so was I. It was so frustrating. Like, that's why I say it was one of the most frustrating games I've ever watched this year for Nebraska, which is really saying something. I think maybe you have to separate it into 2 different camps. I think this is the most frustrating game we've watched since Frost was fired, besides maybe Oklahoma. But
Illinois.
Yeah, it was frustrating. This was
Illinois 2.0. Like,
it was
1.5.
Yeah, that's
like,
that's a fair point. I'm starting to sound like a broken record, I guess, every week. But that's a fair point. It pretty much was Illinois 2.0. I was just more frustrated because I was at home watching it, screaming at the TV screen, like kind of tired at 11 a.m. So that the final stick on the QB situation is this. Logan came in, the entire vibe of the team changed. There was only 4 minutes left of the game. And when I saw Logan operating that offense, I started thinking, oh my God, we're going to have a chance. And they're going to carrot dangle this thing. Because he looks good. And the offense looks like a different offense now. It was just so frustrating to watch. That throw he made on 4th and 11 to Marcus Washington was perhaps one of the prettiest throws of the year. Perhaps. I mean, Casey has had some great ones. I'm not going to compare. Casey has had some really good ones. Don't want to diminish that. Definitely the prettiest throw of that game from a Nebraska quarterback. No doubt about that. I mean, he just stepped into it, threw it with confidence, and Marcus made a play. It was the
best. It was the best back shoulder throw on a 4th and 11 against Minnesota
that we've seen this year.
We've seen this year.
No, it was a really good throw, but it was also really like, I thought y'all said he couldn't throw. What the heck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because here's the thing. Like, we've seen him throw in Scott Frost's offense, but Scott Frost's offense we'll both admit this. You're a quarterback. You could probably speak more to the details of it, but it's different passing concepts from what I noticed. Scott Frost, I mean, you could speak on that. How is it different than Whipple's offense?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, and you saw them in the games. There's lots of screens.
Right.
throwing a screen pass, you don't have to be very good. Even Chuba was making those screen passes. Lots of crossings, tight end over the middle, like sitting down into a zone, lots of those. So really
deep ball.
Conceptually, how many? Okay.
Because
last
Scott
year
would go into the deep ball like twice a game.
Yeah.
And
it's much more.
Whip
it's
goes
much,
like 15 a game.
Yeah, much more. It's much more in Whip's offense, and much of that has to do with the personnel we have now.
Right.
But yeah, and you have to be able to throw the deep ball. But passing is passing. It just is. It's passing is passing. As long as you know the concept and you have the arm strength and footwork to get you there, that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Logan
like
even
when you're a
has
quarterback,
better.
it's bang bang. I feel like you're not thinking, oh, this is a 25. Like when you're sitting there throwing it, you're not thinking, oh, this is a 25-yard out. This is an NFL level throw. I hope I get this. You're just throwing it. I feel like, if you're doing it right.
Yeah, no, and that's how you should be at quarterback. You shouldn't be like, I hope I make this throw, which almost seemed like every single time Chuba threw it said, oh, I hope I make this throw.
Right. Similar to basketball, you don't want to be thinking, don't miss. You want to be thinking, make it. But yeah, so that's the quarterback situation. More little tidbit about it is Smothers probably. I don't know. He's in his best position he's been since Scott left, definitely, to potentially earn the starting job for the team, depending on Casey's availability and health. I think that's really what it's largely dependent on, because I think Mickey's going to look at that film and say, no, we got to go with Logan. This dude's a gamer. We got to give this dude more reps.
Night and day.
Here's the other thing.
You would have to be a moron.
Oh, great. I'm getting my first start against Michigan in the big house.
Yeah.
Look, they're killing every team this year. Okay.
I know.
Like we'll do a preview pod later this week, but they're killing every team this year. It felt like it was going to be a close game against Rutgers yesterday, and then it ended up being 52-17. I checked the final score and I was like, oh my God. So what that tells me is that they're a college team, classic college team, really good college team, which means they're largely inconsistent because they're young, a college team. It's hard to get them pulling in the same direction sometimes. But when they are, it only takes 1 or 2 quarters for them to really put it all over you. That might not be a fun game to watch. But I also want to just with the Minnesota game recap, the defense. I do want to talk about the defense. The defense is playing better and better every game.
Yeah.
They're just improving every single game. They had 3 sacks in the first half. O'Shawn had a sack. Garrett had a sack, I believe. I think, and then Ty Robinson had a sack at the very end there that knocked Tanner Morgan out of the game. It knocks Tanner Morgan out of the game, and I'm thinking, like when Tanner doesn't come back out, I'm thinking, oh my God, like we're ahead by 2 scores. We just knocked out their starting quarterback. Yada yada yada. We got this game. And then their backup quarterback comes in, and he looks like young, small Ben Roethlisberger out there. I mean,
and I told you we spoke at halftime, and you're like 32-0, wouldn't lose it by 10. I said, well, we have a tendency to help those teams break those records. So
yes, and we did. We helped them, and break it. No, but it wasn't like even the second. So they had 39 total yards in the first half, their offense. Then they come out and they have 279 yards in the second half. Mo Ibrahim rushes for over 100 yards. He gets his classic 100-yard game, which he's had like 14 straight or something like that.
Which he was always going to get.
Right. Which we expected, but also why? We have to ask ourselves why. Well, it comes back to the quarterback situation and the positions that they were putting our defense in. Yeah, the positions that they were putting our defense in. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, because if we come out in the second half and we have an offense that's at least productive, at least able to flip the field, our defense would have held them to much less. Guaranteed. Yeah. They weren't getting big plays on us. They just weren't.
They had one really big, 2, I think, really good throws.
Yeah, that was just really good throw and catch back shoulder throws. That were
the guy was wide open, and if he had hit him, and he sort of.
I do want to also say luck was on our side to that game as well. They dropped so many passes. Did you notice that? They dropped had to have dropped 5-6 passes that were wide
But it
open.
evened out or for how many ours dropped.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Our offense played like trash. And if our offense showed
Yeah.
up at all, then our
No.
defense would be statistically
Yeah.
they would be climbing up the ranks slowly
You're
if
right.
our offense supported them at all.
You're right.
I mean,
But when you look at that halftime, they have, what'd you say, like 39 total yards?
total yards in the first
Yeah,
half.
39 total yards, and they're only down by 10. What does that tell you?
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%. Our offense our offense only had a good drive, the very first drive. And what did I say? And what have we been saying all year? Oh, Whipple can script. He's a good scripter. You know, he can script some plays, but once it gets to a real end game, what is the defense running? What am I going to call on this? He struggled. I'm just calling it like it is. He has struggled. I mean, calling a draw play. There was a couple times he called a draw play on like a 2nd and long, and it just wasn't going to be there, man. Like you had Chuba in the game. They're not respecting it anymore because he's not. He wasn't utilizing it at all anymore. He's freaking out at they started blitzing like crazy. Which is why it was so stark when Logan came in and it just had poise. But yeah, our defense played really good. Shout out to the defensive line. Shout out to Atiba Maga Clements. Caleb Tanner played the best game I've seen him play his entire career. He was all over the field, looking like a top prospect. Really looked really good. If he played every game like that, he would be getting drafted. He's a really good. I mean, like, dude's really good.
Yeah, these past 2 games, I think the offense and defense are even now because the defense lost us that Georgia Southern game because the offense was just rolling and they just completely lost us that game. So I think they're even now. I think now we can be a whole team. I think they're even, you know.
Yeah, we overcorrected, and now we'll just settle. Now we'll just settle somewhere where we have a decent offense and a decent defense.
But, you know, and I was sitting there at halftime, and I was thinking, like, yeah, we're up, but Purdy hasn't done anything in a really long time. How long do you think you can hold a running back that keeps getting that marker, and not just against Nebraska's or Rutgers, like against good teams? You know, he's gonna get that yardage. So how long do you think that you can keep that up with an offense that is completely stalled and doesn't have a quarterback that can throw and has proven it? And that's what turned out to happen. And I actually tweeted at halftime, the biggest question going into halftime is, can Nebraska put a full game together? And the answer was no.
No, a resounding no. They haven't all year, because you look at every single game this year, even the Oklahoma game, first half of the first quarter. I mean, like, they gave us a half quarter in that game, even that game, though. They have moments and quarters and halves, even sometimes, where they look like a complete team. But yeah, yesterday was a rough game to watch. It was a rough game to watch, and it was frustrating. And I was yelling at the TV at the end of the game, just so freaking pissed off, man. So pissed off. And it was rough. But I tell you what, I'm glad we didn't do the podcast yesterday, because I would have been bringing up SEC conspiracy theories, because it was looking like, well, Georgia, other games from Saturday, we'll harp on a couple of them. Georgia beat Tennessee, right?
And I knew was going to happen.
Right. So did I. And so I was like, all right, here we go. We're going to have a 1-loss Alabama playing an undefeated Georgia in the SEC title game, sitting on the sidelines as a 1-loss Tennessee. Alabama's going to beat Georgia, so you'll have 3 1-loss SEC teams. I started getting into, I was like, oh my God, like, this is NBA. This is this is conspiracy. Like, they're fixing all this crap. Yeah. And then Alabama lost to LSU.
The fighting Brian Kelly's did their job. Jeez.
That they did, man.
Oof.
Did you see the GIF going around of him with the player with like the cam that goes around him? And he's just like of all the recruiting, the recruiting visit stuff. I saw people posting that.
No, that's funny. No, that was a crazy game, and it was one of those ones that, like, I knew it was going to be on, but I was like, oh, Alabama is not really Alabama this year, but they're still heads and toes better than most of the teams in college football, and they're gonna steamroll LSU. And they didn't win into overtime. And when it went into overtime and they scored the touchdown, I was like, all right, here it is. They're over. And then LSU scored, and I was like, oh, okay, they scored. Oh, they're going to go for 2. All right, they're not going to get it. And then Alabama's going to win. And then I was like, oh, wow, that's different. 2-loss Alabama. When's the last time that happened?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. What a year. We're getting a 2-loss Alabama. And I don't know if I could find the exact picture. Yeah, here it is. Let me visit that.
A 2-loss Alabama.
2-loss Alabama, which is always a crazy scene. And then you got then what other games were yesterday? Oh, Lance.
Yeah. Leipold got the Kansas State Jayhawks bowl eligible for the first time since what, like 2009?
Yeah, 2009. Real quick, this is what LSU looked like last night after they beat him. They stormed the field.
Oh man.
Yeah,
another crazy game, which usually I wouldn't be happy to see, is a Notre Dame win. But I was really happy to see that Notre Dame they exposed Clemson. And I enjoyed that.
We're not going to get a fraudulent Clemson team that sneaks its way into the playoff. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah, if it was a 12 team, if we were in 12-team era, they would still have a shot, no doubt about it. They would probably still be going, no doubt about it. That's sort of what's intriguing about the 12 team, because some of these teams that are on the outskirts, such as look at K-State. K-State lost yesterday, but going into yesterday, they were a 2-loss team that was gaining a lot of momentum, and a team like them could have ended up winning the Big 12 and getting into a 12-team playoff. So if you're a 2-loss,
they lost to Tulane going into yesterday?
Going into yesterday, they lost to Tulane early on in the year. Then they lost to TCU.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They lost to TCU when they lost Adrian. Oh, let's touch on that game real quick. So they lost Adrian against TCU and then lost that game. And then they play Oklahoma State. They host Oklahoma State the next week without Adrian. And they win like 48-0. They destroy Oklahoma State. And so all the K-State fans are like, oh my God, we're turning a new leaf. We're a really good team. Oh my goodness. So then they play who did they play yesterday? They played who'd they play yesterday? I just know what happened.
I knew. Why is it blanking?
Texas. Sorry,
Texas. That's right.
Texas. I knew
that's
Texas.
Right.
Okay, yeah, Texas. I even caught a couple of plays of the game. But anyway, they get a chance to. So they're getting killed by Texas. Okay, at halftime they're losing like 31-10, and they come storming back. Adrian's back in the game. He's all healthy. He started the game, I believe, and they get the ball with a chance to tie it up.
I know.
And what happens? One play, Adrian fumbles, and it goes out of bounds. And everyone's like, oh my God, he fumbled. It went out of bounds. The very next play, Adrian fumbles.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I didn't see that he did it twice.
Yeah, he did it twice. Oof. So he lost in the game in classic. I hate to say it because I like the guy, but classic Adrian fashion, he lost the game. And it sucks, man, because here he was at the beginning of this year, really turning a leaf, winning that OU game for him. I mean, he won that game for him and with the bow and everything. It's a great story. I'm glad he had that moment. But now here we are 5 games later. And what's the narrative now? It's shifting, I guarantee.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
It's probably more of the you did it. You did it once. It's doing it on a consistent basis.
Yep.
Doing that. Because right now it just looks like a fluke. And I think he's a great player and a great person. So that was frustrating to see that they couldn't pull that one out.
Yeah.
Especially since it's against Texas.
And they were the favorite going into that game. And Texas Bijan Robinson was running all over the place. Like at the end of the day, that's really what happened is sometimes Texas, a team like Texas with athletes like they have, you get into it's one of the reasons, and we'll dive deeper into it, but it's one of the reasons I feel we are going to get donkeyed by Michigan because we play skill position ball within the Big Ten West. We try to outskill the Big Ten West. That's really what we do. We have fast dudes. We have dudes at cornerback and at DB. And largely the rest of the Big Ten West, theoretically, this is what we've tried to do, doesn't have as good of athletes. So we can beat them over the top. We can beat blah, blah, blah. Michigan, we're not going to be able to do that to Michigan, and Michigan's going to be able to outskill our skill ball. So we're going to have to play Big Ten West ball against Michigan, which we're not going to be able to do. So yeah, that's going to be an ugly game, but it's kind of what happened with Kansas State yesterday. Kansas State is a ground and pound team largely, but they really got outskilled on the defensive side of the ball by Bijan Robinson singly. Bijan Robinson, like I've talked about plenty of times, is probably, in my opinion, the best back in the country. It's a real shame he's on Texas because I'd like to root for him too. He seems like a really good guy, but yeah, he's an incredible back. Incredible.
Yeah. Let me see if there's any other scores that I wanted to talk about. This is always a game that you think is going to happen, and it just hasn't this year. Is a Northwestern game, taking a team that they have no business being on the field with and fighting with the Ohio State game. And they got helped by the weather 100%, but they played really, really tough, and they played a really good Ohio State team really tough. I mean, Ohio State, ended up taking over, but only by 2 scores. And, they fought real hard.
And this is sort of an interesting question that poses. And I'll ask it in a sort of interesting journalistic way.
So we have a shot because
I'll ask it in a sort of provocative journalistic way. Was this was the effort that the Northwestern team put forth? Was that the death rattle of Pat Fitzgerald's coaching career at Northwestern? Because they're 1-8 at this point. I'm 1-7, 1-8. And this is the second year in a row that they're the worst team in the Big Ten. And they have 2 wins.
No, they have 1 win, but doesn't he have 2 West titles?
Oh yeah. I'm not denying the success the dude's had there.
And it's Northwestern. He's going to have a lot more leeway than this year.
Right.
Last year.
Potentially. I've just heard a lot of things where they're not like the leadership in Northwestern. And this is getting it all from the same source. I get everything. Okay. And like you've been a part of this podcast for a year. You know that just because of Twitter and the people I follow there, I tend to say things that tend to happen a month later. And I have heard that Northwestern's administration and leadership is sort of turning sour towards Fitzgerald, and they're trying to get a new coach. They just announced a $800 million new football facility, a stadium, $800 million, and it's a 35,000 seat stadium. 35,000 seats, $800 million. That better be a really nice stadium.
Yeah, you're telling me they can't even pack the one they have now.
They better have those chair lifts at each. They better have those chair lifts, and we all better be riding chairs up and down to our seats.
Yeah, it just you scan your ticket, a chair comes and picks you up. and takes you to your seat.
It's just a giant conveyor belt. You don't even have to walk ever. You press little buttons on your chair to take you to the hot dog stand.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I think he might have a little bit more leeway. Coming out of COVID, we're still 2 years out of COVID, and that decimates programs that really aren't built for football success, and Northwestern is not, even though they have been, and they've had a very tough football team, and we're Cornhusker fans, so we can't really demean them at all because they have our number right now.
No, not at all.
But they're not an historic winning football program. He's gotten them to that level before after being really bad for a couple of years. I think he's going to be okay. I think they would be stupid to fire him after this year. If next year he starts the year and keeps going, then I think that's it.
That's a here's the thing though, in this day and age, I know we're talking about
North waiting.
I know we're talking about North. No, it's not about people hating waiting. It's about the structure of college football and how that's changed things. It's changed things. That's why we got our coach fired in the 3rd freaking game this year. It has changed things because Trev had to give the guy who he thought had potential a chance, that on one hand, and on the other hand, he had to give himself time to go look out for other candidates and give them time to decide.
Yeah.
So because of early signing period, because of all that stuff. So think about it this way. Michigan went 2-5 in the COVID year. And old Coach Harbaugh, he was on the hot seat going into 2021. What happened in 2021? He beat Ohio State and went to the college football playoff. Okay. And now what's happening this year? They're 9-0, I think at this point, 8-0, 9-0. Yeah. And if they beat Ohio State, they're going to go to the Big Ten championship where they're going to donkey Illinois. And then
they have to go through Nebraska though. that starts getting through Nebraska, which is a brick wall. But no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But again, it's Northwestern. And look at all of the coaching vacancies that are out there. There's at least 5 I can count that are really good programs that are not that are above Northwestern. You know, there's Auburn, there's us, there's Wisconsin, there's Arizona State really is above that. There's one more.
You're saying above Northwestern.
Above Northwestern.
Okay.
There's one more.
Northwestern's a tough job. I agree with that.
Yeah.
100% I agree with that. But it's obvious they're investing in their football program. And we're in a world where, the monarchy of Iowa, the Ferentz monarchy that is at Iowa, is even being called into question. Kirk Ferentz is on the hot seat. Let's make no mistake about it, okay? No, the administration, forget about the administration. The fans are livid. I mean, I have not met one Iowa fan that says, no, give Brian Ferentz a chance. I've not met one, okay?
Wait, so you're saying Brian or Kirk?
Kirk. You don't get to hire your son as the offensive coordinator, let him piddle away wins and cost your team wins for years and then not be on the hot seat. And that's what's happening over there. He's on the hot seat as well.
Well, they just beat a pretty good Purdue team 24-3.
Yeah, good for them. I'm glad for them.
On a good performance by Spencer Petras. Did you see his numbers? Let me pull them.
I hope they turn it around and their fans get a dose of some irony. I hope Brian Ferentz becomes the next Joe Brady. I mean,
okay, so their running game was there, which is always helps your pass game. So their running back Johnson had 22 carries for 200 yards and 1 touchdown, but Petras was 13 for 23 for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a very solid performance.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for Petras, like if you said CJ Stroud had those numbers, right, we'd be like, what happened to CJ Stroud?
Oh my gosh, you're right. No, it's about
it's about the context. That's not the crazy. You said 13 for 23 with 200 something yards.
197, 2 touchdowns. Yeah.
That's good. That's efficient. That's classic Iowa quarterback play. But that's not like NFL quarterback.
No.
But but he's on the hot seat. What's their record this year?
Iowa's record. They are 5-4.
They're gonna go bowling. Oh no.
Yeah, they're gonna go bowling. They're gonna go bowling.
What's their schedule? What's Iowa's schedule remaining? They got three. They got 2 games and then us. So what is it?
Yeah, let's see. So they have Wisconsin this week.
Okay.
Wisconsin, Minnesota, us.
Okay. So they're going to be 5-6 going into the game with us, and they're probably going to beat us to go bowl eligible.
Well, we're gonna be 5 and
we're 3-5 right now. 3-6.
Yeah,
we're 3-6 right now.
We'll be playing for a bowl game too.
Oh yeah. All we got to do is go 3 for 3 and start it off by beating Michigan in the Big House.
Oh, what a way to do it too. Let's do it. Shit.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, man.
Both Illinois
eligible is unrealistic at this point.
Illinois lost to a really bad Michigan State team. How else does that piss you off?
Yeah, it does. It pisses me off. So now it's a real possibility that a 3-loss team is going to be in Indy. A 3-loss, not just 3-loss Big Ten West. Three,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because there's still like a 5-way tie for second right now in the Big Ten,
Yeah.
Big Ten West.
Oh, there was one thing I wanted to bring up with just the Big Ten West and all the games we've been having. And it has to do back to the COVID year. We've been playing very old teams, like very, very mature rosters. Every single, like, because I don't follow these other teams as nearly as close as I do Husker football. Most of the teams we're playing now are what our team was last year.
Pretty much.
It's
right
pretty
about
much. It's pretty much like they're like, all these guys are back. They've been playing for 7 years. I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder they're doing okay. Like, if you have that much experience, it's really hard to screw that up. I mean,
the only guy that we have on our team that's kind of like that is Caleb Tanner. That's the only guy we have on our team.
Yeah, I'm just talking about
Caleb
like
Tanner,
most of their
who else?
squads.
Do we have any guys that are only on the team right now because of COVID, because of the extension? Probably. Probably Caleb, and who else? Maybe some O linemen. I'm not sure.
I don't. Yeah.
No, our O line is
so.
relatively young.
Yeah,
I think our O line is relatively young.
No, most of that was on the defensive side of the ball last year because our offense just had so much attrition.
No, that's a fair point. Next year is going to be the last year with divisions, and the Big Ten West could be even worse. So, like that's a fair point. And so it's all about, what's going to happen with Mickey, what's going to happen with the coaching search. What's your that is kind of the last sort of topic we need to touch before we leave is the coaching search, Mickey.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about it now? Because it's college football. Our feelings are going to change every week because it's game dependent. So how do you feel now?
I love Mickey's mindset. Still do. He's a very good coach. He has the ear of the players. His players love him. And I think that he might be a really good head coach one day. But right now, he's not showing that he really wants it. I think he's trying to keep the team, and he's coaching for the players, and he's not coaching for the job, if that makes sense. So I think that as of right now, I don't think I want him as a head coach anymore, specifically because of the Logan stuff.
Yep.
It's very obvious that was the problem on the offense. That was the problem. And a head coach goes in and says, hey, I don't care what the hell you have to do with your game plan or whatever. Put Logan in the game because we need to figure this out. That's what a head coach does, and that's the decisions he makes.
Right. He walked into a math test, forgot all the formulas until the last 2 minutes. You know what I mean? And then he's like, oh, I remember the formulas. And then he's like, oh, I know all the answers now.
Or going in and remembering that you're remembering that you had a calculator in your back pocket.
Exactly. Something like that. I agree with you. I largely got that feeling coming away from it too. I like Mickey. I think up to this point, he has been coaching for the job. And as you say that, at first I was like, he doesn't want the job. That's probably the wrong way to put it. I think he does want the job. I just think he is realistic at this point. He knows that at this point, his job is to not make Michigan beat us twice. I hate how we're talking about it like that. But I feel like at this point, that's how he feels his job is. I don't think he's going to get any real consideration for any head coaching positions elsewhere that he would actually consider over a high-paying coordinator position or a high-paying assistant position at a major university. Because if he stays around and a new coach decides to keep him, then it will be like a $1.2 million contract and an associate head coach title, almost guaranteed. So I don't know. So with that being said, that's kind of how we both feel about Mickey. At this point, in order for him to, if they're going to announce somebody before the Iowa game, here's what would have to happen. If they're going to announce somebody and it's Mickey, okay, before the Iowa game, at this point, here's what would have to happen. He'd have to go into the big house and play a respectable game, a very respectable game that goes down to the wire. He would have to play something like that. And he'd have to beat Wisconsin. Yeah. And he would have to beat Wisconsin. And if those things happen and then he's announced, I don't think Husker Nation's that mad. I just think we're in wait and see mode. And then if he beats Iowa, then maybe we're excited.
Are we in Camp Randall? Or are we in Lincoln?
No, it's in Lincoln. It's our last home game of the year. Last home game, because I know we played in Iowa. Yep. So Lance got his team bowling. I still think he's a
I know you
candidate.
like Lance.
I like Lance a lot.
I'm gonna throw out a name that we haven't talked about.
Okay, go ahead.
And I was watching this team play yesterday, and then I was just thinking about this guy's whole career. And I don't think that he would even be considered, but he's a name that if he was in some way considered and hired, it's a really good under the radar get that nobody is talking about. Hugh
What
Freeze.
is it? Oh, yes, I know why you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, you're a Liberty alum, and he's the head coach, and he is the head coach of Liberty.
Yeah.
And he's had success, that not just success, he's brought them to a new era, and they're a legitimate
he had
football
success
team now.
at Ole Miss in the SEC. Like
He
he's
knows
a
how to
good
build.
coach.
No, he knows how to build. I still say, are we really gonna go from a guy named Frost to a guy named Freeze? It'd be too good. It'd be too good, man. It'd be too good. No, I agree though. He knows how to build out. He knows how to recruit. First of all, he's a great recruiter, and he knows how to build out a powerhouse team. He beat Alabama multiple times when he was at Ole Miss. They were always a thorn in the side of the powerhouses in that conference when he was there.
Yeah.
He never really got them, from what I remember, he never really got them over the hump as far as like getting real national title sort of prominence. But he had Dak Prescott.
He wasn't there that long either, though.
Didn't he have Dak Prescott as his quarterback?
No, that was Mississippi State.
That was Mississippi State. Who did he have as his quarterback? He had another guy, an Ole Miss guy. Sure it wasn't Dak Prescott?
I'm positive it wasn't Dak Prescott.
Okay, yeah, I get them mixed up because, like, come on, how could you not get them mixed up? Ole Miss and Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl. I'm like, same teams playing each other. Yeah, he had good teams though at Ole Miss. So Hugh Freeze, I think, would be a really good hire. I know Auburn is really pushing to get Hugh Freeze. They want him.
Mm-hmm.
They want him bad. Auburn's looking at possibly getting Hugh Freeze or Kiffin. And the ironic thing about it is both Hugh Freeze and Kiffin are mentioned for the Nebraska job too. And in the case of Kiffin, I mean, he's got personal connections to this place and stuff. But he had good teams at Ole Miss. I think he'd be a good hire. I agree with that
because he's a program builder. Yeah, he is. And
Proven.
I was watching them. Pretty much, like the score wasn't indicative of really how the game was played. They kind of manhandled Arkansas yesterday, and
right. And people will bring up the moral thing where it's like, you know, the moral thing, which is like, oh, he got caught cheating at Ole Miss, and now he goes to a school where the administration's doing all kind of Mormonistic things. Let's just put it that way. So there is a bit of the moral. What I'm trying to say is there is a bit of a moral component to the Hugh Freeze situation. But in my opinion, this is how I view it. Hugh Freeze got caught cheating for doing things that are legal now. So whatever on that one. Some a name that's caught up a lot of steam in the recent days. Matter of fact, there was a release on like Wednesday that there was like some sort of border regions meeting and they were going to announce a head coach in the next 48 hours and some bullshit, honestly, some straight up BS. And one of the names that was in lockstep with those rumors was Matt Rule. And we've talked about Matt Rule, but his name is still picking up a lot of steam for this job, man.
Yeah.
And so to me, I'm getting a feeling that Matt Rule sounds like the guy, like he's going to be a guy. I'm not saying I want that or don't want that. I'm not saying it would be good or not. I don't know. I think he's got decent head coach, decent to good head coaching history at the college level. Good, pretty good. I don't know if it would work out here. I don't know if he'd come here, but I'm just getting that feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on him. You know, you can have good luck to places. The NFL can't expose people for what they really are in terms of coaching. I think he does a good job of like bringing in good players and all that, but you know, this is a different animal than Baylor. This, you know, even still, we have a different standard of success here.
Yes.
Which is why it's so frustrating to be a fan right now. But I don't think he could do it 3 times. 3 times is really hard to do.
I agree. And a name that's sort of dropped off a lot recently, and it seems like it's not a possibility anymore, is Aranda. And I've been a proponent of Aranda on this podcast for multiple reasons. I just think that it makes a lot of sense given the fact that he's already coached with both Bush and Mickey. It would probably be an easily negotiated point to keep one, if not both of those guys there. And I think that Mickey also wouldn't. I'm also looking at it from Mickey's perspective. A guy like Aranda, who's highly respected, highly cerebral. I don't think Mickey would throw a hissy fit. I'm not saying he'd throw a hissy fit in any way. Just internally, I don't think he would be mad about working under a guy like Aranda.
Yeah.
Whereas there's certain coaches I feel like they'd hire, and even if they wanted to keep Mickey'd be like, man, I don't want to work under you. You know what I mean? It just is what it is.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think Aranda's one of those guys. I think Mickey would actually legitimately want to work with Aranda. So that's one of the big reasons.
We're just all posturing, and it's already Urban and a locked deal.
I wish. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. And Urban's been out of the coaching game. If Urban came here, he knows all kind of people, man. He would build the most incredible staff we've ever seen.
And he wouldn't build it for him to be here long term. He would want to build it to do exactly what he did with Ohio
Matter of fact, he
State.
might look at the whole Mickey situation and be like, Mickey's a damn good coach. I might be able to work with Mickey. You know what I mean? I might be able to Ryan Day Mickey at Nebraska.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
here you keep Ryan Day Whipple. I mean,
yeah. He's a young guy.
Nice young guy.
Nice young guy. Dude, we talked so much crap about that dude yesterday off air, man.
I mean, warranted though.
Warranted. Totally warranted.
He's just being stubborn, and we'll see if he keeps being stubborn.
Really, I compared him to Pizza the Hut. I'm just gonna put that out there. All right. So I think that was the podcast.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be it for us today on the Cornhusker Corner.
Cornhusker Corner. Subscribe and like. To follow us on Twitter at CHusker Corner. Blah, 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 blah.
And Cornhusker Corner. Yeah, whatever. Follow us. Always remember that there's no place like
this podcast.